live. We are live. Hello, everybody. We are back at it again. We're going to jump right in. I'm not wasting no time because this show is jam-packed. This is My Vulva and Me, episode 4. Get your hands off your imagination. My name is Brittany Broaddus-Smith. As you know, I am the founder of the intimacy firm and creator and host of My Vulva and Me. And I have two of my homies, my young Skrillers with me today, ShanaeAdams and QuanitaBaxter. It is May, and it is in addition to Sex Ed for All Month, it is Mental Health Awareness Month, and these are two of the greatest clinicians that I know. And I could not have this episode, had this conversation without bringing them in, and you will see why in just a short time. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. We're going to start with Miss Shanae.
Okay. I'm Shanae. I'm a lead clinician in a school therapeutic program. I'm a mom of 2 boys. My master's degree is in counseling psychology.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, counseling psych too in there. Yeah. Okay, Quanita.
I am QuanitaBaxter. I am co-owner of Evolving Individual Services. I'm also a licensed behavioral specialist. My master's degree is from Immaculata and it's in counseling psychology.
Ow, so we got counselor psychology, we got school psychologist, co-owner of Evolving Individual Services. We got it, all the pieces covered for mental health, special needs, and just bomb Black women. And so,
magic.
Yeah, exactly. And as you know, My Vulva and Me is for Black women, by Black women, about Black women. And this episode, we'll be looking at that intersection of body image, healthy relationships, and mental health and special needs, and how to navigate all of those experiences as Black women. So like the other episodes, we're going to get started with a bit of an icebreaker. So if you have been raised by a Black mom or been anywhere around folks who are raised by a Black mom, and if you're a Black mother yourself, you know there are certain things, there's certain jargon, if you will, that just comes with the territory. So we're going to test our guests' knowledge of this jargon. And so the way the game is going to go is I am going to read a statement that has been, washed of all the Black mom essence. Okay. Your job would then be to say it in the way that a Black mama would say it. But don't start until after I read the whole thing. But y'all don't have to raise your hand or whatever. You can just go ahead and jump out and say it, okay? We got a couple. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And y'all know it in the comments. Y'all can go ahead and add them in there too. So number 1, do you have the income to support a trip to a fast food restaurant?
You got McDonald's money?
You got money from McDonald's? High five.
In 0.2 seconds. So in
the house, we got burgers.
Yes.
We're not stopping. Absolutely not. So, okay, that was number 1. All right, number 2. I am not part of your tiny group of acquaintances.
I'm not one of your little friends.
Not one of your little girlfriends.
I'm not one of your little friends.
Amen. Good. Okay. We on the roll. All right. Number 3. This one's a little tricky, maybe.
Okay.
A firm skull makes a mushy side.
A hard head makes a soft behind.
Mom, that's right, but my mama didn't say behind. Okay?
Oh yeah, we're going to the TV version.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Wow. Okay. Next one. Halt the tears before you are provided with a cause for those tears.
Stop crying.
Now you better stop crying for. Cry it out. Ain't nothing going on in your little world.
Absolutely. What did you cry for? That's exactly right. Okay, and last one. You have the aroma of the outdoors.
You smell like outside.
Hey, but here's the thing. What does outside smell like?
Them.
Like, how do you how do you describe what outside? Because it's almost
just
like,
a smell.
Right. You can't describe it because I've said it to my kids. Like, you need
and
to
you
shower,
just
it
know
smells like
what
outside.
it is.
Yes.
And right behind that is get out of my clothes on.
You smell like outside. Smell like outside. Go get in the shower. You smell like my you smell like outside.
Exactly. So yeah, that was cool. That was our icebreaker. Give yourselves a round of applause. Y'all definitely. Oh, child, my earrings done came out. Y'all definitely know what it is to be raised by a Black mama. And so this episode's title, "Get Your Hands Off of Your Imagination." My mom never said that, but my grandma used to say it all the time. And for those watching who don't know what "Get Your Hands Off Your Imagination" means, because when I first reached out to Shanae and Quanita about this, I was trying to figure out what to title it, because I knew what I wanted to talk about, and all the other episodes had these catchy titles. I didn't know what it is. So I texted Nita first and I said, have you ever heard this saying? She was like, and that I don't. I was like, okay, well, maybe that was just my house. Maybe I'm tripping. So then I text Shanae like, you ever heard this saying, "Get your hands off your imagination"? And Shanae was like, yes. And then my imagination being my hips. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes.
I heard hands off your hips, but I never heard get your hands
imagination. So my grandma was like, it's almost as if there's nothing there. You got your hands like this. Like you used to come in standing like this, and there's no hips there. So you were pretending or imagining that is something there. Basically, you being grown. Like, so standing like this was if you was grown, and grandma didn't play that. Right. It's interesting. Like this whole series, we're really looking at just the experience of what it's like being a Black woman, growing up as a Black girl, and things like. It's just like there's experiences that are unique to us. Mm-hmm. One of the things I want to ask of you as our first question is, what was your experience like growing up as a Black girl? And I want you to think about those things that maybe not until you became an adult you realized was a Black girl experience that maybe some of your non-Black friends didn't have.
I think the thing that stands out to me the most is because I mean, I say it now about little girls, but when you say like, oh, she fast and being grown.
Girls, don't say that about the babies.
I mean, some of them is fast, but yeah. But as an adult, like, and I ain't gonna lie, like people would say about me, and I'd be like, well, what I do? But I always had an attitude. So you know, my mouth ain't much changed, but my mouth. So even now, you'll see a girl and these girls with these attitudes nowadays, they're another level. But it's like, oh, she grown, oh, she fast, she doing too much. But it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you being fast. I probably was fast. I probably was being grown.
And so we talked about this with, I think in episode 3 about this idea of fast, and we looked at what sexual values were connected to that and what sexual values we have for Black girls, little Black girls that we don't necessarily have for little Black boys, because the reality of it is, although I've not been, like, I understand what a stereotypically fast young lady look like and what that characteristic is, but that's not language that I use myself, because I always feel like I got to peel back the layers. Like if they're exhibiting overtly sexual behavior, like what's going on?
What happened? What triggered it?
What's happening? And but the funny thing about it is, they're not exhibiting these behaviors alone.
Right.
It's interesting that the question is, what was your experience like growing up as a Black girl? And that is one of the things that first come up in conversation, that there's always some connection to our sexuality, even when we're about Black adolescents. There's some connection there. But I'm really interested in just like, what was it like for you? Like, when did you, if at all, and then Nita, you could answer, when did you look in a mirror and was able to appreciate your complexion? Or when did you have any experiences where you were either had a group where shared experience with someone, or if you stood out amongst the group in different ways just because of your experience as a Black girl?
I think for me, I was always the tall girl, the tall black girl. You know, the tall black girl that played basketball, the tall black girl. And so for me, it kind of made me shelter like who I was, including my height. So I would slunch over because everybody else was shorter. So, you know, you take the school pictures and here I am, I'm in the back because everybody gotta see, or the boys that you thought were cute, all shorter, you're all tall. No one really likes, you know, the tall girl. So you kind of take on like this armor that you got tough, and, you know, nothing bothers you because nobody really wants the tall girl when you're in middle school or high school. But I don't think it was until I hit like my late 20s where I'm like, the 5'9" girls is where it's at. Yes, is it. I appreciate, and you know, I appreciate every curve, every stretch of my leg, arch of my back, everything. And I think it took for me to see my own inner beauty, because I don't think we hear it enough when we're younger. You know, or you're a beautiful tall black woman, like you're going to be great. Like we don't hear those things, especially in the time frame that we grew up. That wasn't like the thing that was going on. So I think once I reflected and looked at myself and believed those things for myself, I didn't need anyone else to validate that. And then my beauty started to show, not just on what I look like outwardly, but the inner beauty that I believed in myself.
So that validation piece is huge. Like, is there a space, or do you think there needs to be an increase in the space for validation of our young girls, or just for Black women, or just Black, you know, the lifespan of Black female body individuals? Like, where is the space, or is there already a space for the external validation, or do we all have to depend on knowing or loving ourselves from the inside out? Like, is that like a journey that we always have to take on our own, or do you see a change in external validation?
I feel like at some point there needs to be a course on it, because as we were talking about it previously, and Shanae said, you know, oh, she's fast. But why? Because I didn't hear, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're smart, you're going to be successful. And you only project what you see in front of you. So if your mom is going to work, she doesn't have time to sit down with you while you're homework. Oh, you're smart. I didn't even know that when I was your age, because she got to pay the bills. So she doesn't have time to do that. So all you know is get it done, get it done, get it done. So as you grow older, you start to kind of have like these holes within yourself because nobody like poured in certain areas. Oh, you're beautiful, you're smart. So you start to seek it other places, and where you get the, oh, she's fast. Well, you know, Tyreek over here telling me he like my legs, and you know, he this and that, and I don't get to hear that at home. So now my validation is in this little boy, it's not in myself.
And I just want to clarify. So for me, fast was not always sexual. Sometimes it's the presumption. Like Nita said, she was the tall girl. I was the short, thick, light-skinned girl.
Well, you definitely was doing it. Not like real life, but when they look at you, they're like, oh,
right. Sure. Like, where's she get her body from? So it was the presumption of she's fast because she's built a certain way, she looks a certain way, and these girls nowadays are built a certain way, like grown women, and the presumption is, oh, she's fast, and the attitude, oh, she doing it, so she, you know, she got a chip on her shoulder, she got an attitude. Right.
Another Black mom saying she's smelling herself, or she's
smelling her. Exactly.
And you know, that has always been something that has bothered me, that the presence of hips, or really just the experience of puberty connects to my sexual resume in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
The reality of it is, like, and that shows how important comprehensive sexuality education is, to understand basic things like how the changes that your body goes through when you're going through puberty, and even the attitudes of when you're going through puberty, and like let me tell you something.
It's just the Black girl magic and the vibration going on right now. It's just everything.
I was not sure what that was, and I to go out the door and you're always going to finish the show on your own. I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for that. But yeah, like just the experience, like what natural things that our bodies go through as we go through puberty, just the teenage experience with up and down emotions and things like that. And you add in something like a child with special needs or a child that has mental health or intellectual issues, it all presents itself in a way. But we had this idea, like societally, there's this idea of a certain way to be. So any eccentricities in any way, shape, or form that falls outside of that status quo, we have to put a label on it because we don't understand it. And we don't take the time to say, hey, what's going on? Like, overtly, there's a sexual autonomy that once a child reaches or a person reaches the age of consent, and most times the age of consent, they're child, because in Pennsylvania, you can be 13 years old to consent to sex with someone as long as they're not 3 years older. And 16 years old, you can consent to have sex with anybody, 52 or 18. That is, I have my issues with that, but that's not the purpose of this episode. But I have my issues with that. But it's like what we were talking about like we're looking at body image, right? And we're having that conversation that what's happening now, like in social media and the Instagram bodies and things like that everybody is just like sometimes literally and figuratively dying for. Yes. Bodies in a certain way when there's folks who've had that body all their lives naturally, and it's not always been the positive experience folks thought that it was. And so it's interesting that we have that issue. One of the comments said because that's when guys and predators become aware of you when you're in puberty and your body looks in a certain way. But so the thing is that predators and guys may become aware, but that has nothing to do with me. Now we live this life of, we have to protect ourselves, protect our children. We have to build them up in certain ways so they know what to say, what to do, how to make them book smart and street smart and all of that. But the inappropriate thoughts and feelings and behaviors of another person should not have a bearing on a child who just have hips and thighs and butts. And the things that our food nowadays with all the hormones and things with, it's happening earlier. People are this girl's going through puberty at 8 years old.
Right.
So it really shows the work that needs to be done within our community. So then my next question is, what is your relationship like with the full body mirror?
I feel like ever since that Beyonce and Megan Thee Stallion came out, I kind of just put that on. And when I walk across that mirror, I'll be like, man, that is a bad girl right there. It took a while for me to get there.
Okay.
In regards to, your weight fluctuates. It goes up and down, it goes up and down. But I've learned to love, every curve, every arc, I love my legs, my long arms. And I think I started to love my body because I began to love myself and accept myself as a whole person and not kind of break myself apart or, your hair looks like this, your body looks like this, your heart feels like this. But I think once I looked at the totality of myself, I feel like I started to appreciate my body more.
Oh, that's good. Loving yourself. When you loved internally, that shifted really the way what you saw when you loved. Because the thing is that it may not be, for some folks, it may not be extreme as a diagnosis of like body dysmorphic disorder or something of that nature. But when folks don't feel good about themselves, when it literally can change what they see in the mirror, and it's difficult to even support individuals sometimes because it's like you looking like, child, what are you talking about? Like, and you literally don't see it. And then they're like, you see, do you? Right. It's tough. So Shanae, what about you? What is your relationship like with the full body mirror?
We got a little love-hate relationship. Like Nita said, The Meg and Beyonce song, yes, but I relate to it differently because when B said, honey, if you don't jump the pool jeans on, baby, you don't feel my pain. You don't feel my pain. You don't jump to put them on. If you ain't ripped the inseams of your inner thigh, if you ain't popped off a belt buckle, you don't feel my pain.
Come on now.
So, you know, we just want to say I'm very good at angles.
Listen,
I know all my angles, honey. But
I cannot, and I will not.
I'm very good at angles.
You have to, and you know what the funny thing about it is that we laugh at stuff like that, but it's really like, and we talk about like the experience with like the selfie when the selfie first came out, like, posting things on social media and things like that. Like it's real, it's memes about it and all that, but the experience is real. You'll have 23 pictures in your phone and going through for 20 minutes.
Yeah, more than that.
Decide exactly which one that you're going to put, and literally it'll be this one. This one. It's the same picture. Like it's like and you like that light. This like, or if this is up like this is like, oh, you can't see the E. Hold on, let me do it again. Like
you guys send it to a friend, they get a second opinion.
Like send options. Like listen, and that group text, many of group texts have had that experience where you are selecting the picture.
Yes.
Because and the thing like it's funny when you think about that because it's really so real, like how much angst comes something like in the society where we live in, where social media is so huge. Like as much as some folks may not like social media, you really cannot live
without it.
You may not do it day to day, but there's some folks that don't answer the phone anymore. They don't text. They don't. It's like it was time when my mom passed. It was easier for me to make a post on, so even though that's a private matter, but it was the folks that I needed to tell. I'm not making that phone call. My mom passed. I just want to tell you, my mom died. Oh, I'm sorry, my mom died this morning. I'd have had to do that 67 times as opposed to just one time on social media and to get across. Even like so, it's one of those things where you just have to figure out how you manage it all. At one point in my life, long time ago, days, long. I was at my heaviest. I was 309 pounds.
Okay.
And I never, even at 309, didn't really like what I saw in the mirror. I would still like walk around, in the house, like without clothes on and things like that. I never had that cover up shame. And I think that's because my mom walked around the house naked and she was for something at her heaviest. So kind of was just like, it wasn't like sexuality and nudity was not something that ever really connected for me. But I think about that space and time. I actually not too long ago looked at my pictures during that time. 87% of my pictures was from the shoulder up. And like I would only be in full body pictures if somebody took a picture of me. Like I never set up my phone or put the timer on or any of that to get a full body. Like, cause I know I was like, my face is cute. Like she's cute. This is good to go. This right here needs some work. I wasn't really sure about what was happening down here, but up here
it's connected. Like you were
up here, we're good. So it's just like when you think about like somebody, if you had an uncle named Harold who just started on social media and the first 20 of their Instagrams is that same up picture. That really is what mine was. And then it got to a point where I was just taking pictures of scenery and putting up like text and stuff like that. And I was just like, I can't do this. But even then, it was like a cognitive dissonance a bit because I was just like, I was feeling a way, but thinking something else, but then behaving another way. It was really difficult to be able to be loud and proud and say one thing, but then I'm like, oh no, I'm not taking no pictures. I'm not going shopping. I will order all my clothes online because the experience of the clothing room, or what is it called? The dressing room. It was all too much. So how important and I was also very depressed. Like I was literally, it was terrible. But I was smiling and showing the world because functional depression, I think a lot of us is walking around here with that we really don't. Health issues is not a conversation that is readily had in our community. I think there's a lot of us who are clinically depressed, but we just learn how to function and manage. how important or how connected, if at all, and both of you can answer, is having a positive body image to your well-being, your overall well-being?
I think it's extremely important.
Yeah. It should be at the core or your center, because it's definitely going to eventually project out of your body and show how you truly feel about yourself. Because you're either going to teach other people how to treat you. So if inside I think that I'm a horrible, ugly person, I'm not smart, I'm not able to get anything done, people view me this way, I'm going to educate you on how to treat me. So now you're treating me as such because this is how I feel inside. So I think it should definitely start at an early age, even when, kids, when they're children, you tell them you're beautiful, you should be proud, parents love you, or whoever you're raising. I don't feel like kids hear it enough. And I think that's where the gap starts to happen, because I don't think we heard it enough. Like that wasn't the thing. Like your parent didn't come in the morning, oh, I love you, have a great day, we're not leaving quotes and things like that. And so for a lot of my clients with that, we have affirmation cards and we hang them in their room. They wake up, they see them on the mirror. We do collages, make them say them until they believe them. Because you can look at them and you can read them all you want, but if you don't believe it to be true, it doesn't matter who told you that you are something if you don't believe it yourself.
Yeah, that's really good. That you can have someone who loves you and whose opinion you respect, and they can say it all the time, but it legitimately will go in one ear and out the other. And it's unfortunate at times that because we don't want to oftentimes make space for that discomfort, we don't want to sit in the fact that we are uncomfortable with our bodies, we kind of project that on other folks. Like you don't like it, you think this or you think that, or I'm not going to do this because they're going to say this. But when reality, we're just projecting what we think about ourselves. Now there are some people who are just who look at pictures, and again, this is a reflection of their own internal issues. They look at pictures or posts and things like that and tear it apart from top to bottom and things like that, because they don't have, and it may not even have any real issue with it. They may actually really enjoy it, but because they got their own stuff going on, they hate. But it's sometimes where we are dealing with our own stuff, and it's easier to project it and make it as something that is happening to us as opposed to something that we are really experiencing. So what do we need to do as caregivers, as mental health professionals, as just individual, like folks who are living life with people? Like we're not on the island. You commune either whether it's with other adults or youth. And Nita, you started and said a bit about affirmations and things like that, but what other ways can we begin to shift the narrative, like, and build that? So, because you all both mentioned that there was a point where you was just like, oh, okay, I'm dope. Like I begin to love myself and look and like what I see and things like that. But for some, that's a long time coming. Like, what do we need to do to accelerate that process?
I think just being more mindful and being kind. Like you see the memes that say like you can adjust the queen's crown without letting everybody know. Yes. Like just being more mindful and being kind. Everybody is dealing with their own issues. So if you can give another female a compliment, give her a compliment. It doesn't always mean you're hating on her or it's like a backhanded compliment. If she looks nice, tell her she looks nice. And for the kid, like I call, and it's just like force of habit. Like I call all my clients baby. Like, oh, okay, baby. Like, hey, my baby. But I tell all of them, like, I always find something to compliment them on. Whether it's a behavior or something that they have on or a picture they drew, something. Like, I think we just have to empower each other, kids and adults.
And that's good, Shanae, empowerment. And then also at the same time correcting, and this is cheesy, but correcting stinking thinking. So a lot of times we are intentional about, particularly like folks in our field, we're intentional about pouring into others and building stuff like that. Like it comes, like even in our girlfriend groups, like don't nobody like raise you up like a Black woman. Like like every
yes.
You get a certain dress. Okay, Niece, go ahead, I see you. Because Shanae came on. I said, all right, Lex, you better go ahead. And then Nina, when I first started, I said, okay, Grace, you better say okay. I said, okay. Right. So the thing is that, like, that's good. And that's, and we do that. I think a lot of us do that naturally, like among groups, and then we begin to do that. I see it more within our generation, how we do that with our children, especially like moms with boys. Like, we will gas our sons up.
Yes.
Second, and it's just like, it's slow, and I think we're doing good there. But I think we also should work on, like, when you hear that person, particularly once you have that relationship, talking down about themselves, even then. Like, my son said something the other day about, he was like, I can't do, this homeschooling is getting to be too much. He was like, I'm not smart. I can't do any of this. I said, don't talk about my son like that.
Oops.
He was like, I'm talking to me. I was like, I know that. Don't talk.
You're my son.
Like, you're my son, and you're smart. You're having a rough time. You're over it. So take a second and come back together. But don't talk to my child. Like, don't talk to my child. That's really what I said. My child, like, that's really what I said. And so we gotta catch it. I think we gotta burn the fire. I mean, at both ends, to like pour into and then also correct it, because people will, like, that voice in folks' head, if they don't have another voice to combat that, they will go home and they will continue to believe it. And it's really tough, because just being, by sheer essence of our Blackness, we're already working a couple feet behind the starting blocks. Working to overcome negative stereotypes. We rarely ever see ourselves in a positive light. Our children have it much, even though it's not great, be much better. Our children have it much better than even we did. Like, the availability of Black dolls, the availability of images on TV that are positive with Black faces doing thing other than, shucking and jiving or drug dealing or, like, things like that. It showed that they can be more, because it's difficult to aspire to what you've never seen. And the privilege of dreaming for some of us, depending on your surroundings, is even unattainable, because it's almost as if I dream to leave out of this place, I either have the pressure of bringing everybody with me, or the guilt of being, we talked about survivor's guilt in the last episode, because everybody can't go. And even just about being a 16-year-old phenom, like, one of the things was a little girl that were in the news the other day where she got accepted to all of the Ivy League schools, and just the pressure to show up and perform and things like that, it begins to shape your identity. And your identity, I believe, is really connected to where you want to go. It may not be connected necessarily to your I feel like when God has designed us in a way, he connected his design of us to our purpose. But when I begin to understand who I am as a person, it's going to shape what I want to do. Even before I get to the place where I'm like, whatever you say, Lord, I'm here, I'm a vessel, use me as you see fit. When I'm just sitting there 13, like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this. It's just like, but why and how and for what reason? I want lawyer because my mom worked at a law firm, and I saw all the lawyers come and go. I saw the trips they took. I saw the cars they drove. I saw the big legal notepad that they were writing on, and I wanted all of that. But imagine if I also have family members where we grew up in the same neighborhood, we had the same access to the same resources, but I'm the only one in my family that's ever been to college, let alone a master's degree. I'm the only one in my family that's ever been like real life married, I mean, and that's no shade, but I mean,
common law.
It's right. It's the guinea pig.
And the thing is that even when we think about dreaming, healthy relationships is even a part of that. When we're at a certain age, we begin to envision what our future will be like and who we would share that future with. What we see shapes that in either negative or positive way. So what else can nope. We said that question already. Like, what else could we do differently? We answered that already. Sorry. So and all things we talked about it, presumably, and y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, as women with typical functioning mindsets, intellectual abilities, things like that. You both have advanced degrees. I have advanced degrees. There's a certain privilege in that as far as mental health, intellectual abilities, and things like that. How is this experience different for adolescents or women who have mental health needs or special needs or intellectual disabilities?
I think it's a total 180 for them because they're not understanding. If you have a girl who's autistic, she's not understanding the different social cues, and she doesn't understand, okay, I'm feeling, wet, or if, she's on her menstrual cycle and her hormones and things are changing, she's not able to, express that, or even just knowing how to change a pad or how to wash in a shower. And for me, it's giving the tools to the parent to give to the child so that the child can do it independently. Because you don't want a 16-year-old in the shower and you're still having to stand in the bathroom like, wash this, wash this. So it's having those action steps of this is what you wash first, having those flip books of this is how, you change your pad, or just even having a doll. Like you mentioned earlier, we're privileged to have Black dolls, and you label it on how you wash it, and you have, oh girl, and you have, you have the client, or, whoever the person is, you have them wash it, properly, and you do it with them, and then you put it in the finish file so they're able to see firsthand how do I wash this. So when they get in the shower, it's not like some new thing that they're making up. You can make a playlist. How long do they stay in the shower? For us, we know when we clean. But if you got, a child with ID, they don't know. So we create a playlist so they know, okay, when this song comes on, I should be on this part of my body. By the time this song comes on, I should be finishing up with this. And I think it's giving them the tools so they can still be successful, because they can. And they're very bright individuals. And it's just seeing the world as they do, kind of stepping into their world out of your world and making sure that they understand everything.
That's good. And so, Shanae, in the school building, what are some of the most common things, even if it's just in your building or with some of your other clinician friends, like what are some of the most common concerns regarding body image and healthy relationships do you see show up in the school building amongst young Black girls?
Hygiene is definitely one amongst boys and girls. But with the girls, like I said, them being overly developed at a young age and just trying to not shelter them from certain things. Like we had a whole incident at my school, like that was really, really bad. And it got out on social media. So then that's another caveat. Like now that child, that's long term. So just trying to tell them, like, you don't have to feed into, the boys' validation. Like the boys validating you, and now you're, like you said, smelling yourself, and you thinking you cute, and you thinking you grown, so then you walking around with this chip on your shoulder. With my female client, and I only have like a handful of female clients, majority of my clients are boys.
Yes.
So with the boys and hygiene in the school, I keep like a little care kit in my office with deodorant, wipes, mouthwash, toothpaste, lotion, and things like that. My girls are pretty good. I had one girl who, like Nita was saying, needed that constant check-in when her menstrual was on, because she was an older girl. She would just sit in class and just flow, literally. Mess up her pants, didn't care. And it was just like, you don't want to go change? Like, I would have to go check in with her, like, come on, we're going to the bathroom so you could change. Yeah.
So when we think, so then the thing is that if you're at an elementary school, right? So that's
K through 8, yeah.
K through 8. So that's what, 5 to 14?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what do we then think is the missing link? Like what is missing, whether it be conversation, education, relationships, like is it a family concern? Is it the system issue? Like what's missing that we have children who are in school but aren't able to manage their hygiene appropriately? Or is it a resource thing?
for the school, I think it's partly resource.
Okay.
I think education and parenting. And I don't even think it's like a lot of parenting, because the parents will come in fresh to death. And then it's like, well, why your kid walking around looking like, and then the parent will say, well, I don't dress them like that. They wanted to do that. So it could be some defiance. He or she wanted to wear the same pants all week and didn't want to change. It could be some defiance or some opposition. But it's like, at what point as the parent do you say, listen, we taking these off, we washing them, you're going to wash, and you're going to go to school clean.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's so interesting. So I went to a boarding school, right? I went to Scotland School for Veterans Children, SSVC. We Scotland, baby. Anyway, I'm just saying it's the best. If you ain't heard of it, learn about it. But and so I went there. I was 10 years old, 6th grade. I went away from home for the first time, and I had my hygiene routine. My mom, before I went away, we would get up in the morning, brush your face, wash your teeth. Wash your face, brush your teeth, and you will go through your day. And then at home, when you come home, you get in the shower before you go to bed, because you don't go to bed dirty.
Right.
And so it was just me and my sister. She did her thing, I did my thing. We was cool. Went to Scotland, boom. Now there is one communal shower where 3 of us in the shower at one time, right? And so at that time, I'm 10 years old, and I'm looking around like, because I'm 10 years old, and the only other person's body that I've ever seen was my mother's. And now it's like, what is this? And so I didn't know what to say, where to turn. It was weird. Like and first of all, I didn't even want to do it. I don't want to get in the shower with these people. I don't know these people. But in 6th grade, I didn't have much choice. Everybody showered. There's just what happened. Just like in sports, there's at the gym, there's a shower. It just happened. And so there was this experience for me where and even as 10 years old, I was 5'4" at 10. I was huge, but I was skinny. And then now I'm in the shower seeing people who have the same body as my mom, but we're the same age. Yeah. And I was just like, I knew that was at the moment that I knew that there was conversation that I should have had with my mom. And so when we think about, parenting, and you said things like, where that gap is and being a parent myself, it's almost like you don't know you need to have that conversation until the moment that you need to have that.
Right.
And so for me, everybody looked like me, and the only people that looked like my mom was adults. So then when I'm in the shower, and I said, and this is, I'll never forget my first day at Scotland, first day in the shower with one other person at that time. I said, well, why your boobs look like that? And so she ran out the shower, and then we had to deal with a whole bunch of nonsense as far as concern about my sexual orientation for my first year at Scotland. But it was just like,
way to make an interest.
Why? Right, exactly. And so that may or may not have started my experience with bullying, but that's another conversation. But so my point to that is, how do we prepare our children for experiences that we've either never had ourselves, or that we aren't even prepared for ourselves? Like, how do we, and as a parent, as a Anita, you as a caregiver of others, like, how do you have these conversations that you need to have, but it's almost like there's this whole bucket list of, and it's like, where do we start? Like, how do we do that?
I think it's relationship, like having a good relationship. If you're disconnected from whoever is responsible from you, whether it's an aunt, uncle, grandparent, whomever, the conversation is not going to happen. So if you have a mother and a daughter in a home and they're disconnected and they're not flowing, they don't have much conversation. I mean, she may go over like, okay, the cycle came on, here's the pads, and this is what you do. But she's not going to go through, this is how you may feel. This is why you have a menstrual cycle. You still have people walking around 17, they don't even know why they have a menstrual cycle. So I think it's making sure that you have a close relationship to whoever you're responsible for, or whoever you feel like you're responsible for. Because when I take a kid on my caseload, I'm responsible for them. Whether it's they got holes in their shoes, or something abusive is going on at home, or something they don't understand something in school, I feel like I have to take on that responsibility because they're one of my kids now. And I think not wanting them to be in the situation that you were in at that age will push you to have those conversations in regards to the hygiene, like Shanae said, she has, the hygiene kits and stuff at school, because you don't know what that child is going through at home. Maybe they can't afford it. They don't have it. Or if you have a parent who doesn't practice good hygiene, you can't teach a kid good hygiene and the parent doesn't know good hygiene. So you might have to do a whole family lesson. So really kind of looking at the dynamic of the family and the client that you have to really assess, like, how can you meet the need of the child and the family?
Shanae?
I'm going to speak from a mother's perspective, but it'll tie into my clinical work. So my oldest son is 13. So we know that's puberty, and he's a boy. So we don't have this. We're not going to have the same experience because he's a boy and I'm not. But it's so much easier for me to talk to my clients than it is for me to have those conversations with my son, because he gets easily embarrassed. Like when he started getting hair under his arms and I started asking follow-up questions, he like, Mom, I'm like, listen, I need to know what's going on. So, but it's hard. Like I just kind of have to have a little moment with myself, like, all right, Shanae, we about to do this. We about to go in here and have this talk with him because it has to be done. With my clients. And I think because of the rapport that I have with my clients, and a lot of my clients are more comfortable with me than they are talking to their parent. So they'll talk to me freely, but I just wish I could do that with my son. Because it's just like, I'd be like, I want to talk to you about it just as much as you want me to. But it's easier for me to do it with my clients.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that 100%. Being a sexuality educator and a sexologist, there are certain conversations that I know need to be had.
Right.
There is a script, there is language, there are courses that I have access to that I can sit my boys down right now and have certain conversations with them, because they have to contend with things that we did not have to contend with growing up. There are things that they see, that they hear in their day-to-day. There are certain, like, there. I remember being, I think I might have been like 12 when radio changed. Like there was a time limit where certain stuff didn't come on TV, certain stuff wasn't. And I remember being in the car and hearing the KY Jelly commercial on the radio, and with the ooh and then the ah, and then I was like, oh, this normally comes on right before, Emmanuel and Skinnaman. Don't judge me. Don't.
Wait a minute.
And y'all don't nobody out there judge me, because y'all know that y'all laughing because you know what Emmanuel is and you know what Skinnaman is, so you know what I mean. And you probably had your hand on the last button to flip it when somebody was already coming to run. So don't judge me. And if you were in Philly in the early 90s, you know what channel 77 and 78 is. So don't y'all wasn't.
I'm about to say, you see, me and Nita both got quiet, like, no,
People watching 77 and 78. And if you click it real fast, every once in a while the scramble will clear up for just a blink. The point of the conversation is, okay, that I know what to do. However, as a mother, every once in a while, I'm just like,
right.
Like, I want to prepare. It's always this wrestling. I want to prepare my children. I want my children to know that they can come to me for absolutely everything. Right. Our kids know that our number one rule in the house: no secret, no lies. We no secrets, no lies. And you come to me for you're much more likely to not get in trouble if you come to me first. If I find out and you kept it from me, you're probably gonna get in trouble. Depending. Right. But and I can't say even if you tell me you won't get in trouble, because if you done did some nonsense, I might have to get you.
Right.
But I want to make sure we have that open communication. But there are also times where I just want to take my babies and hide them because of where our world is going. So where is that line between protection and fostering ignorance?
Yeah.
Like to the point where then it becomes dangerous. Like where's that line?
I almost feel like there isn't one, and you can't have one because you have to. And my like I said, majority of my clients are boys. I have 2 boys, so I'm trying to protect them as a mother. Even my clients, like I'm trying to protect them because there's so much going on that could really jam them up.
Yeah,
truths and lies. And I tell my oldest son, like, stop letting these little girls kiki in your face. Walk away. I'm telling you to walk away. Because if so-and-so go home and tell her dad, her brother, oh, you did this, you did that, they're not trying to hear you say, I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
She's automatically telling the truth to her family, whether you did it or not. So I don't think there can be a lie.
And it's sad because even in your home, you may not be ready to have certain conversations, but because of what's on TV, what's on social media, you have to have them so early,
right?
Because you don't want your child to be blindsided, and you come home and your child's like, oh, transgender. What's this? Or this person came in with it. What does that mean? And what's the?
So how come I got 2 moms or 2 dads?
Yeah, like you have to. It's sad, but you have to have the conversation so your child is not left in the dark. And whatever your values are in your home, your children should know your values and your beliefs. But at the same time, don't let them be blindsided as much as possible.
Exactly, and then don't let them be blindsided. And also, it's in those conversations where you are able to foster and accept an appreciation for diversity, or just the realization that everybody is not going to share your same values. Everybody's not going to live the same life. But the thing is that in this world, you can't go around life expecting to be only around people who think, feel, and act the way you do. There's a way that you have to go, and there's something that you can say that don't fly. Like another black person. I don't care what such and such mom said. I'm not such mom.
Right.
And said that on me. In the slumber party, you're not spending the night at spending the night at nobody's house. It's just not. I'm not doing it. And the thing is that I know that you shouldn't create fear in children. I know that there are clearances, and I know all of that. But I also know how I was raised, and I know that when I know that there were a lot of houses we were allowed to spend the night at, and I know that there were a lot of questionable babysitters, and I got into a lot of nonsense. So call it a trauma response, call it what you want, but my kids are not going over there. It's just not happening. So the thing is that where this wrestling, as I was saying, like, how do you build a child who is well-rounded, but still so secure in their values, but also able to be empathetic to the needs of others? And when you're raising boys, like, how do you build emotional intelligence, but also let them know that this world ain't gonna give you nothing for free. So you got to work for everything that you have. And if you get knocked down, you got to get back up. Like, it's so difficult trying to navigate all of these things. And then when you think about having, just like I said, as I shared earlier, I struggled with depression for about a year. And so when I had nothing to pour from, there was nothing in there, I was on E, I still had to show up every day for my children. I still had to show up and go to work every day. And I was a child welfare social worker. The worst of the child abuse, of the sex abuse, of parents who didn't care, parents who were terrible, and parents who really did care but just needed a little bit more help, of judges and social work, judges and lawyers who really cared, other judges and lawyers who just wanted a dime. But I had nothing to give, but yet I still had to show up every day. And it feels almost like that is the plight of a Black woman. No matter what the situation, you have to show up every day because, and we say it all the time, it became a popular meme. It says, F it, I'll do it. And then it said Black women. And so we champion that, like, yes, we'll take care. We make it happen by any means necessary, but at what cost? Talked about in episode 3 that the cost of it. So what is the way, if you can give words or language to the weight of the things that we say we need to give, the weight of not loving yourself inside and out, the weight of not having that validation, the weight of not having that relationship with some external person or caregiver, particularly that can help you with your hygiene or help you learn how to use a tampon. And like, what is the weight of that? What does that create?
I think for me, I kind of look at it as like a responsibility. Like I have to work through all my issues because there's another person, another girl out there that it's another me that I'm going to have to meet eventually through my course of work, that I'm going to have to empower so that person can meet the other me and help that person. So like you said, we'll run on fumes, we'll run on fumes to get the job done, long as we get the job done. And at some point it has to stop being the job, but the purpose. And I think once we found that, like, for all three of us, like, this is our purpose, this is what it is, we can run all day and not get tired with this, because we know that there are so many people attached to us that need to be like strengthened, that need to hear the things that we have to say to be empowered. Because like you said, Britt, you were in that social work field and you saw the worst of the worst, and you're dealing with your own level of depression, and you have your own situation at home, but for you to still have so much purpose in what you want to do, to be able to go out and make sure that you're still effective at your job is phenomenal.
Shanae, thank you, Nita. What do you think? What when we keep these voids and these gaps unfilled, what does that create?
I think it creates anxieties.
You can cry, girl.
Girl, I ain't ready.
I'm about to say don't start because I cried.
I wasn't going to stand up. I saw Shanae go like this, right?
Don't start.
Like, you do something. And I'm like, are we at the crying part yet?
No, I'm not about to cry.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I think it creates anxieties. I think it creates false narratives. And I think like it does create depression, especially like you said, for a Black woman, we have this attitude of F it, I'll do it. Because I'm very much F it, I'll do it. If I ask you to do something and it's not done immediately,
and the way I want it done, but that's we would be a bit unforgiving and compromising at times because we don't just want it done. We want it done when we want it done and how we want it done.
Yes, I'll do it.
We take on a lot of we bear. The hymn. Oh, what needless pains we bear. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Right. So I think because of that, because we have this mentality of we have to show up and we have to show up and not complain about showing up. And we have to keep all those things that we're battling with. Who do we turn to? Because I'm so busy working on so-and-so can be a better person. But who do I turn to? Because like you said, when I have nothing to pour into anybody else, who recharges me? Yeah.
Wow. And so the thing, and it's like, it almost becomes like this perpetual, like, cycle of pouring empty. And then because we teach others about as much about what we say as what we do. And the thing that we have folks around us that are watching us that we may never have a conversation with, and they begin to emulate, especially young people will emulate the things we do. And our children and the youth in our lives learn as much from what we say and do as much what we don't say. Mm-hmm. And so it creates this cycle. Like my mom, when she growing up, my mom, she started as a temp at this law firm when I was 8 months old. She was there all the way until I was 24 years old and worked her way up the ladder with just a high school degree from a temp to director of records and imaging for the whole thing. So from go, we never talked about her job. I never knew about her promotion, like in the sense of I know what a promotion is. I just know that we moved. I know that she bought more stuff. I know that she racked up at Lane Bryant. And I also know that she would drop like 400 or 500 at Lane Bryant. And then I didn't get my first pair of name brand sneaks until 8. But that's not what we're talking about. But I was just saying, that's another conversation for another day when your kids look one way and you look another way. But that's rest in peace, Lisa. I love you. But what I'm saying is that I knew that I was going to have a job. It wasn't even an option. And so how she showed up and did her thing at work, I needed to do the same thing at school. So when I would bring home report cards and stuff like that, it wasn't, yay, go ahead, great job. It was what was supposed to happen. And so I was on the Abbott Society, A's and B's, because I tried. These could have been straight A's. And so when I was in kindergarten and memorized the I Have a Dream speech, yeah, you supposed to. Like, what else are you like? So you know what I mean? So it's almost like certain attributes were just instilled in me just by the way she flowed. We never had a conversation about it. She never told me you can be whatever you wanted to be, because for sure, I never thought I was going to be a sex educator, and then she didn't say that. She was calling me a psychologist until like 6 months before she died. And I was like, Mom, that's not what I am. That's not what I am. And what telling people I was a psychologist, they didn't want to tell me her personal business. They asked me for recommendations and carrying on. And I'm like, no. You ashamed of my work. You don't get to use my services. We're not doing that. But it's interesting, like, how do we, and we're at an hour now, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. So in closing.
Wait, before you close, can I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
No, what you just said kind of goes back to what Nita said when she said, as kids, we didn't hear it enough, because what we heard was you could always do better.
Yeah.
You didn't get praised for what you did do, even if you did a phenomenal job at what you did do, the thing that you were supposed to do. You didn't get praised for it. You were told that's what you were supposed to do, or you could have did better. So I just wanted to reiterate, it went back.
And when you think about the wage gap, when you think about things like affirmative action and just like issues like experience in the workforce and the education for Black people in general, and this idea that we have to work twice as hard for half as much.
Right.
Out of that thought process, and this is not something that is germane to all Black people across, the nation. We're just talking about our personal experiences and experience of those that we've heard, is that it's almost like Shanae said, like, this is what you're supposed to do. So you don't get no cookie for doing what you're supposed to do, because the world is not going to give you a cookie.
Exactly.
Sure, you're going to hear it if you do something you're not supposed to do.
Absolutely.
But if you get out there and do something you're not supposed to do, at this point in life, it wasn't so much so, or at least to my knowledge, because, social media wasn't what it was, and I didn't really watch the news. So I didn't know, I don't think I was cognizant of it back then. But right now, it could have fatal consequences if you aren't where you're supposed to be, because it has consequences where you are where you're supposed to be, when you're in your own house. And you know what I mean? So it's just tough to think about when we think about how we want to show up in the world, what we want to do to leave our mark on the world, how we want to make a better future. Somebody in the comments that said something like preparing a better future for the little Shanaes that's to come, the little Nitas, the little Britneys and things like that. I could never have a daughter because I just couldn't be a girl mom. Like, I just don't feel like I have it in my members. But I love little girls, and I have a heart for little girls, and I am like very protective of little girls and their image, their experience. And it's just like, so when we're in closing, like, we used this before on one of the other episodes, what would you say, or what did you need to hear? What did little Shanae and little Nita and little Brittany need to hear at whatever age that you want to say to someone now, or give to, and it may not be 13-year-olds watching, but if there's someone watching who has a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 6-year-old in their life that they need to pour into, what did little you need to hear back then that we can give some folks language to pour into somebody, to the youth in their lives?
I would say for me, I'm proud of you. I hear it now as an adult. I hear it now. I didn't hear it enough as a child. And I would say you did the best you could.
I'm proud of you, though.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
I'm proud of me.
Yeah, right.
But no, I hear it now as an adult. But I heard coming up, I heard that's what you were supposed to do.
Right. So Nita, what did little Nita need to hear?
I think I needed to be seen.
Wow.
I think that I needed to hear I was supposed to be here and that I was and those are three things that
the crying part started.
And those are three things that I share with every girl that I come across. When I do their intake, I let them know that I see you. Like, I don't see this paperwork, this blog about you, this description. I see you because looking at you, I see me. Like, I see the old Nita. So I think those three things were something that I needed to hear. And now that I hear them, I think I think because I know that they're true to me. And Shanae, what you said earlier is, you know, who pours into us. And I think that's where my faith comes in at. That when I am empty, he does pour into me. So he validated me and let me know I'm supposed to be here. I'm good enough. And I see you.
Because,
get it together, Brittany.
Because I wasn't even here for all that. Like, don't even like. So, just as a follow-up question before I go, what? The comments is crazy, but he pours into me. He validates me like that. That's a word right there. That's it. If nowhere else, I look to the hills for which cometh my help. Child, my help comes from the Lord.
My father and mother have forsaken me.
Ooh, child. Okay, but you said I see you, right? What does it mean? What does that mean? What does that look like to be seen?
Like, you're a person. You're not just a mistake that happened when someone was 16. You're not something that ripped apart a family. You have purpose. You have life. And it's not because two people got together by accident. Like, it was supposed to happen. And it's me not walking around like I did when I was younger with my head down. Like, I'm able to stand tall. I'm able to look people in the eye. I'm able to shake hands. I'm able to give hugs. And that's not something that I was always able to do because I never really saw myself until my late 20s. You know, so I think being seen, I think, is a real big part because so many girls are not seen. Like, they walk in their house and they go right past their mom. No one says anything to them. They're not seen. So if your family doesn't see you, why am I here? No one's talking to me. Like, why am I here? Why am I here? So then we start to question, and then we go into the mental health, and then and then we may stumble upon trauma, and then we start having issues with hygiene. Then that spills into different relationships, as we become older, and we don't know how to love ourselves because we didn't feel it. We weren't seen.
That, you know what? And for real, we really get ready to wrap it up to stop. But that is so huge because when you don't feel seen in some situations, you will go out. It's something that we crave as humanity, that safety and belonging. Maslow's hierarchy of need. Like, it's listen, it's there. It's one of the foundational things and the things that you will go out of your way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have children who want some type of attention, be it negative or positive, anything makes them feel something. So for me, what I would say to little, and honestly, not so little, like a year ago, Brittany, is that you do not have to perform. Are enough as is. And of those who need to see it, those who are going to see it, those who are purposed to see it, will see it. You don't have to earn your place anywhere. And if there's a place where you feel like you need to earn it, then that's not a place where you need to. And so to could tell myself that, like, now granted, I'm a good time.
You are.
And I, I like to have fun. I like to, I'm full of light and life and all of that. And so for me, that's not the performance. Like being silly, laughing, kikiing and all that. That's not the performance. The performance is the going above and beyond and almost kind of like shape shifting to reach the bare minimum of even just being tolerated. Not appreciated, but just the bare minimum of tolerating. But the thing that you should not want to be anywhere that tolerates you. And I tried to tell when I was a case management social worker, when I was even as a sex educator, and I go into high schools now, and I see little girls doing stuff and just literally saw a little girl wrap her foot around a chair so she can fall, so that she can spill out in front of the class so everybody can laugh. And I pulled it, baby, you don't have to do that. I saw you as soon as you walked in the door. Like, you know what I mean? And so you don't have to do that. It's okay. And if there is ever a place where somebody, like, you have to feel like you need to turn it on and be a court jester, and you're not auditioning for some type of point,
right?
Then that's not something that you need to do. And that's a place that needs you, because there is a place for you where everybody there is excited to see you. If that's only 3 people, 4 quarters is better than 100 pennies.
Listen here.
So child, this was good. This was real good. Y'all got on here something. Y'all was nervous and stuff, making me. It
was a pleasure. I enjoyed inviting me on here. I loved it. Thank you so much.
Really good. I really truly appreciate y'all. For those watching, this is episode 4. We have episode 5 and 6 coming up Wednesday and Thursday. Episode 5 is Black Women in Hip Hop. We will be looking at some of y'all favorite lyrics about sex and sexuality, and we're going to be debunking some of those myths where, like, when City Girl said that she wants somebody to put a hickey on her clit, we're going to talk about how we're going to talk about that and a few other things, truffle butter and all of those other kind of things that we're going to get into. We're going to get into it tomorrow, and then we're going to close the series with It's a Hard Not Life, episode 6, where with Natasha Wilson and Tia Roberts, will be looking at sexual health, body image, and the child welfare system. Thank you so much for coming out, Nita and Shanae. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you for having us.
Make sure y'all share this on y'all pages and leave the comments. And as I said, I put in their description their CashApp if you want to pour into the work that they're doing. Say thank you if you want to pour into just them as women, just to say thank you for this experience. We truly, truly appreciate you all. I don't have no money to give them, so hopefully y'all show up and drop a couple dollars. Some of that like tomorrow. All right, we are out of here. Y'all two don't hang up.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.